everybody, this is Big in the USA. I'm Cecily Biggins here with my husband Bill Bourbon to discuss trekking and very long distance relationships and how to survive them. I know from certain trucker wives groups or just military people, being separated for long times between you and the other half can really start to wear on your soul, and just the complaints that people normally have and what it takes to somewhat grow up, deal with it, and suck it up, I believe. It's one way of describing it.
Some people don't have the emotional fortitude to deal with something like that. We'll get into that here in a minute.
Yeah, especially if you're young or if it's a new relationship. And I know number one thing women are most worried about is he cheating? Because they'll be gone for 2 weeks. Military, they can be gone for a year. And,
or more.
Yeah, or more. And just how do you deal with it? Are you ready for a very phone-based relationship? And when he does come home, you want to jump him for either stuff around the house, affection, and he is fried crispy from the road.
You know, you can go to the grocery store in the meantime while he's gone.
Yeah, it's not his responsibility to come home and do your food shopping.
Yeah, been there, done that.
That's not how it works. He sits in a truck where he bounces like this nonstop for hours and hours and hours. Legally, it's not allowed to be longer than 10 hours.
11 hours driving time and 14-hour time span.
Yeah. Otherwise, the rest of the time is supposed to be sleeping, eating, laundry, shower, and paperwork. Very entrepreneurial. And if it's a good guy, he's not playing with lot lizards. And lot lizards are those hoes that, was it, a blowjob is $20?
I don't want to get into those stories.
There's lots of funny stories, though.
There's lots of funny stories. There's lots of crazy stories. And lot lizards are something you don't want to play with.
I still like Steve.
Steve? Well, we'll get into that here in a minute.
No, talk about Steve.
Okay, so, I used to have fun with these lot lizards when they'd knock on my door. For the record, I'm not over the road anymore. I'm local.
Which means he comes home every night.
Yeah, every night.
Every day.
I work most of the time 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. So, and I don't see it anymore because I do haul fuel for a major truck stop chain, and they've stepped up security at these truck stops.
But I do know where over in the more industrialized commercial district where some of them do go bother the truckers, like by the manufacturing facilities.
Yeah.
They will find anybody. But yes, getting on to Steve.
So one of the things that I would do, and I've used it a couple times until I met the gay prostitute in Clanton, Alabama. And
prostitute.
I chased him out of the parking lot. I used to sit there and say, well, Steve gets upset when I fool around with women, and Steve is the love of my life. And sometimes I'd get these blank looks. And one time I used it in Atlanta. It was a woman who was from New York, and she was that aggressive personality type that just would not say no. And that's what I led with. And she's, the good ones are taking our gay.
Yeah, Gaiety is protecting our truckers out there, people. Keep that in mind.
Not really. There are some gay truck drivers out there. I'm not going to lie.
Well, actually, that crochet dude used to be a trucker, and he's definitely gay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the truth of what's out there, and sometimes that's what you gotta do to keep your sanity. And some of the women do ride in the truck with the husbands.
I'm seeing a lot more of that these days too.
Women may not be drivers; they're just with their husband.
Right. Especially, I see it a lot with some of the newer drivers out here. They'll bring their girlfriends, they'll bring their wives, and then someone will either choose to be part of the business and be team drivers, and then some of them be like, well, screw this mess, and walk away from it.
Or women do all the paperwork that the men don't want to do, because if you get good enough at it, that's when truckers start their own companies where they have more than one truck, and they hire other drivers, and then it grows into business, and a lot of them do it.
That's what a friend of mine's doing right now. His wife is training to be a CPA so she can do all the tax-related paperwork and all that. And she's not out there on the road with him, but she's out there getting her CPA certification so she can actually build her business. And so now they can have 2 businesses, the trucking business that he's working on, and then her business for accounting. And I think it's a great plan. I think at this point in their lives, they deserve something like that.
Yeah. That's been there. But yeah, for those who don't go over the road and think that, oh yeah, it'll be great money, it's trucking, they don't realize that when he's on the road, especially if it's a new driver, they said they could be gone a week, they could be gone a month. They'll have to have another driver with them for a while, especially at new companies. They're harder to
Especially
insure.
they're harder to insure. Well, that's a whole other ball of wax. But the big thing is when they're training, let them train. You want them to do a good job so they can get good pay and get better at what they do. Right?
And you distracting them with stress and worry that's completely unnecessary is emotional abuse.
And let me give you an example of how far that goes. Recently at my employer at a major truck stop, one of our major truck stops in Oklahoma, one that I know well, we had a driver come in here and he dropped an entire load of regular into 3 different diesel tanks. What we found out after the fact was that he got a phone call from his family that his sister had passed away. My condolences to his family, but he should have hung it up right then and there if he wasn't thinking too clearly. I haul fuel. You can't afford really to screw up. When you screw up big. And it's costly.
Oh, there's just so many ways to screw up in trucking. Not to freak people out, but there's this, I wouldn't call it sick, but there's a very active meme culture when a truck goes underneath a bridge and the bridge is too short. I mean, they do have GPS to help them get around that, but when it does happen, I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny.
Let me stop you right there on the GPS thing, okay? You can't use your standard auto GPS for truck-related stuff.
Yeah, because
the
truck one tells you how tall every bridge is and how tall crossover bridge is and whether or not your capacity will break the bridge.
There are several good truck-related GPS apps out there, but you can't just use Google Maps or Apple Maps and expect to have positive results with a truck.
But like I said, whenever there are really big accidents, yes, the meme culture, they kind of laugh at it, but at the same time, no, it's never funny, but some of the places they put those trucks, it is kind of funny. It is just a little bit. But that's where you go into how good are they at their job? Are they insurable? And you're there to help keep their mental health in line. That is your job, women or other halves. That is literally your job. If he's not in his right mind, I mean, just look at all the ice storm with the trucks hanging off the sides of interstates where there's like, was it a 20-foot drop?
Depends on where you are.
Yeah, so
there are cliffs in Colorado.
There's either cliffs in Colorado or there's overhangs, and just how much weight is one truck?
40 tons or 80,000 pounds max.
That's what they're hauling around on every single kind of surface possible. Or last year when we had that much frozen ice on an access road for, was it Speedway, the faster lane?
It was the North Heron Express on 35W.
The expressway, where the minimum, I should say the maximum, but the minimum speed limit is 70. And this was at the early morning. The ice had started to melt a little bit, so it was wet ice. They're all going up the ramp because the ramp is like a bridge. And there was a 120 or 130 car pileup.
A lot.
There's at least 120 car pileup. 4 people died. At least 30 people went to the hospital. But the part that got me the most from that entire incident was there was 2 FedEx trucks, 2 of the longest ones possible, on top of all these little towny cars.
Yeah.
That's how bad it can be, and why you need to keep him in the best mental health and information for what he's doing or she is doing and why it matters. So him being on, her being on 2 weeks, that is the least of your worries.
Yeah, if he's not able to concentrate and you're calling him every 5 minutes, guess what?
At least he's only calling you.
Yeah.
As long as he's only calling you, or mothers, fathers, best friends, whatever, there's a healthy unit involved. And that's why a lot of truckers have turned to social media as their social substitute, because they do enjoy being sociable, but they just have to do it in a new way. And if it's online, you can track that. I mean, you can see if they have new girlfriends or whatever. usually. Because as long as they're happy, guys don't look around that much. I mean, they're trying to escape lot lizards and their boss's negative opinion.
And if you have a man who exhibits those behaviors, maybe you should rethink the relationship.
If you figured out
He's not going to change, ladies. Okay, he was that way when you met him.
Yeah,
he ain't going to change.
And when he comes home, let him rest because his brain is still rattled as hell from being in that bouncy truck. Suspension only works so much.
Okay, well, let me put it to you this way. A G Hunt driver told me many years ago that one of the first things he does is he goes home and takes a shower. And he explained to his wife that I have to wash the truck off of me. Yeah, and I can identify with that because sometimes I get this really gritty feeling. Even if I'm not really dirty, I just get this gritty feeling, and this, taking a shower helps. Whatever helps him unwind. Let him unwind for a couple hours. Let him take a nap. Then we can go grocery shopping. Then you can go out to eat. Then you can go play with the kids.
Then you can clean the gutters and rake the yard and mow the grass and all the rest of that stuff.
By the way, we pay somebody for the mow our grass because I don't want to do it either.
And neither one of us has the back or the knee power to do that anymore.
No, I could do it. I just don't want to wear myself out.
Well, Texas, it gets hot, and those guys are just so good at it. Yeah. They really are.
They'll bring 3 of them in here and be done in 15 minutes.
The best 15 minutes every 2 weeks that we could ever have.
Yeah.
Or just the people who are like, I know women seem to isolate themselves with all of their children. Make a better social circle. Have your mama, have your sister, make friends, do whatever you got to do to keep your own sanity. Find a regular babysitter, even if it's just you going out and getting your nails done, whatever it is. Don't leave yourself unsupported.
Ladies, have a female friend. You can't put this type of burden on, the female problems entirely on the man because we are not capable of processing it.
Especially when they get off the road. I mean, give them a beer, stick them in front of a TV with a chair, let them sleep for a while, make a mistake if that is their persuasion, and just go from there.
The only reason you mention steak is because you like it so much. Mention how good my steak was today. Mm-hmm.
Yes, he has this new smoker grill addiction, and the steak was wonderful, honey.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I just pan-sear something. But I had that Texas, was it that garlic salt pepper mix?
Among other things, it was a recipe I got off online. I just seasoned it, dry brined it for a couple hours while I was, slow doing the smoked sausage earlier while I was doing some other things, and then I ramped up the heat and, made the steaks.
Just make sure you talk loud enough, because if not, we won't get enough sound.
Okay.
But yes, he can make his own steak. But when guys who do the long haul, when they come home, they just want to vegetate a minute. They want to breathe. They want to not rattle with the truck.
It's mentally taxing out there too. And
it's not like they're just sitting driving. They got to make sure that every other car out there doesn't hit them. Because if they get hit, they're still responsible. Because Lord knows the insurance companies know it.
Yeah,
and will sue them.
Yeah, when you get hit by Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer,
who specializes in suing truck companies.
Yeah.
It's all about keeping sanity, keeping the fridge full, keeping everyone as happy as they possibly can be. And like I said, the relationship will be very much over a phone. But when the check comes in, as long as it's a good enough company and he's getting paid what he's worth, it's not that bad. I mean, you said have other people help or learn to hire someone or don't assume there's only one way to do something.
Whatever it takes to keep the peace.
Make it happen. Make it work. As in, he's working, now you're working. This is not a sit at home, twiddle your thumbs kind of thing. And if there was only one lady I ever heard of who he didn't mind paying for everything. She didn't have a job. They didn't have kids. They were married. She's like, I don't know what to do with my life. Volunteer.
Get a hobby.
Yeah. Make blankets for orphans and homeless people. Volunteer at the animal shelter. Get a certification in something that you've always wanted.
Organize a carpool for your kids if you live in such an area that warrants that. Hey,
and if you don't have kids, which is what she didn't have.
She didn't have kids. Yeah, there's plenty of things to do. You can even work at home now. I was talking with another friend who's doing medical coding and billing from home, and you can get your certification for little or nothing, and you can get that to pay off and work from home.
Have interest in life. Know what you want, because if you know what you want, you just go and you do it. But when you don't know anything about yourself or life or availability or your neighbors, whatever, I don't know anyone who's that much disinterest in life other than someone who's suicidal.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
I mean, heck, there's wine tastings, there's restaurants, I knew one lady who only got a job as a hostess just so she could keep busy.
If you're interested in knitting groups, those are some fascinating conversation.
You can make a lot of friends really fast if you get into some type of craft, some way, somehow.
Because that's what draws people together, common interest.
This is true. Or heck, most time people use their kids as their excuse to have common interests or sports or booster clubs or whichever. I know they say join a church or join whatever, but find a group that has a similar interest. That's kind of what church is, or any other knitting whatever group. It's sharing, it's giving, it's relieving of stress, it's sharing words that come out of your mouth. That I know your man's supposed to be your other half of your relationship, but sometimes that ability to absorb from you kind of dries up and dies because he is fried.
Yeah.
So just let him recuperate. Give the brunt of the emotionality to your girlfriends, because women are just more equipped to handle emotionality. And then you just give the basics to him when he comes home. Like, when he's calmed down, whichever, okay, this bill needs to be paid, this bill needs to be paid, and in the future, this is starting to die, so we need to start saving to fix whatever. Those are the conversations you have when he wakes up. When he does, that's when you go food shopping, budgeting. Does so-and-so need braces? Does so-and-so need something for soccer? Does the house need a new roof? Basic things. And then when that's all said and done, that's when you can be romantic. Because by then, he would have gotten all the business stuff out of his head.
Men are also natural problem solvers, so when you bring a problem to them, it's really hard for them not to take it to the...
Because, if you bring it up, expect him to assume to fix it now.
Yeah.
Not next week. He thinks now.
Yeah. And not all of us are going to have the foresight to say, okay, can we put something off? What's the time frame? Or think about it logically for a moment. But yeah, we're natural problem solvers. If you're calling him just a bitch, save that for when he gets home, okay, and after he has a nap.
Or save it so that you can reword it so it sounds less like bitching and sounds more like a legitimate problem that he can actually participate in fixing.
Right.
Now. Or just
otherwise, save it for your girlfriends. And if you don't have any girlfriends, or as I speak about you, or you're actually putting all of your happiness into them, that's a whole other ball of wax right there.
Yeah, like your happiness, like 100% of your happiness should not revolve around him always being there, like physically, or if he doesn't answer your phone call, you shouldn't get pissed off. And if you do, that's your problem. Because he has a how many ton vehicle that he's trying to...
40-ton vehicle to navigate through probably some of the worst conditions.
Yeah, he's trying to get a 40-ton vehicle to not fall off the edge of a highway. 40-ton vehicle to not have other cars crash into him. A 40-ton vehicle that shouldn't... Depends what he's carrying. Some of it can be explosive.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to the scheme of things... Know when to pick your battles, how to pick your battles, and is it really a battle? We don't want to turn any molehills into mountains. That's never a good thing. And to get a support system so it'll help you process what is not, and whatever supplies extra he needs. That's all it really is knowing.
And don't believe some of the myths that some people tell you about truck drivers. Okay.
Oh yeah, and don't let other people lie to you about what your truth is. Who was it? One of your exes tried to convince her that you were trying to poison her.
That was before I started as a truck driver, and that's another story for another day. But one of the things when I did start trucking with my ex-wife, she was talking to a friend of hers, and this friend of hers mentioned that, oh, if I paid the cashier a little extra for, I could get her to join me and help me in the shower. And I'm like, that is not true. If you try that at any major truck stop in America, you are probably going to get arrested.
And have you seen some of the help at this truck stop?
Yeah.
I mean, some of them look about as pretty as I do, or a little bit older and a little bit hairier and mole covered.
And I'm going to take. I'm just going to
No
take.
offense,
No. Let me tell you something about my shower time, my bathroom time. That's my time.
Yeah, it's your fried get your brain back in order time.
Yeah. Even at home, it's my time.
Yeah, sometimes he locks the door to make sure the cat doesn't come in.
Actually, I don't want you to barge in because you just barge in the.
I don't do it that often. It's only when I have a legit question.
Then knock first.
I sort of do.
No, you don't.
Not like you don't have anything I haven't seen before.
I know, but if I'm mid lather, don't ask me a question.
See the sanctity of the bathroom, the sanctity of mental health, inner peace, and calm.
No, a lot of my hangups with the bathroom actually come from my childhood, where my dad would just bust open the door and just whistle at me, and then close the door behind. Because I don't know, he grew up in a damn barn somewhere in the middle of Alabama.
No, I've never done that.
And don't, because that will elicit a violent response. I will throw stuff in the house.
But yeah, just keeping everyone with their mental health intact does matter. If you have any questions, leave them below. If you truly feel that you need the help of a real psychologist, I suggest you go find one. And with everything being online nowadays, I know there's a couple of apps out there that you can get like a real certified psychiatrist or therapist through an app for a little bit less than in person, but not much less because they are worth their time. Or start a knitting group. That's where a lot of the stuff that gets said in my knitting group. It's not about knitting, if you get my meaning.
Yeah, sometimes you hear that gossip.
You just need that gossip. You just need something outside yourself, just to feel like other people have gone through what you are either currently in, have gone through. The relatability. I know for women, it's supposed to matter more as far as your overall mental health, to have that time to be with other women. The camaraderie allows for stress relief. It does something extra. And I guess extra matters nowadays. Men, not so much. Men, wouldn't you say most men only need their wives when it comes to emotional things?
And, well, some of them don't know how to cook like I do. So
I didn't say cook. I said emotionality.
Well, that's part of it. Hungry is an emotion to men. Just saying.
Okay, learn to cook and you can fix all his problems.
If you know how to cook well, he won't ever leave. I promise. Because he's not going to know where his next meal's coming from unless he knows how to do it himself.
Well, there is some truth in that. Have you ever eaten at truck stops? I mean, let's see.
Same old fried whatever. They've done the market research. All these major truck stops have done the market research. If you wonder why the menu at every Petro across the country, Petro truck stop is the same, it's because they've done the market research. This is what truck drivers want, according to their research.
No, they found it was the most addicting for truckers. Like when we first met, you were addicted to salt. And in order for him to like my food and for it to not be too bland, if you want your food to taste like a truck stop, just overload it with kosher salt.
I'm sorry, I grew up in the South. I can't help this Yankee woman has 3 spices in her kitchen: salt, pepper, and ketchup.
I had a bigger spice rack than you did.
Bullshit. It's a joke. It's a joke I heard a long time ago.
No. If you want Trucker Boy to eat your food after being on the road for so long, salt kills all their taste buds. You're lucky if they can taste salt and pepper. I had to work on yours.
I've fallen in love with sage in time, and it goes into my
Yeah, I had to rework his entire palate. I mean, other than salt and pepper and any other spicy, we're talking like jalapeno spicy, he had almost no taste buds. It's like, I don't get it. We've changed it.
Okay. Lamb and rosemary is a little tough when you are told your entire life it's way too expensive to have when you're growing up.
We were told that too, and then we started raising the sheep, so it's like, was it really more expensive? When you go see how much it costs to raise a sheep to maturity and to house them and to have hay all winter when hay is $7 a bale.
Yeah, and it sounds like a podcast, future podcast.
No, we didn't do it for that many years, and we've all moved on. But yes, if you can cook, home cooking ain't nothing like the. We have real potatoes at our house. They only have fake potatoes out on the road. We have real steak. On the road, they have something like steak, but it's so rough and tough, they have to beat it with one of those metal cleavers to soften it up. And it's more like a Salisbury steak.
No, we have the chicken fried steak. They'll tenderize it.
Which is covered in carbs, and it's deep fat fried. And if you wonder why truckers are so fat, look at the truck stops and what they offer them for food. Yeah. It's that bad.
And you want to know something, after a while we get tired of it too, and then we want something different. But you can only go to Subway so many times and eat fresh before even that gets old.
Yeah, there ain't no chicken bake on the road. There's no homemade steak with mashed potatoes on the road.
There's no chicken massaman on the road.
Well, there is, but you gotta drive really far off road to find it.
There are some obscure Indian restaurants in certain truck stops.
Or even pho or Thai food or... I mean, yes, your trucker could bring you oranges from California, but that's because some random Mexican was walking through a parking lot, not because you went off-road to find it.
No, I went to Bakersfield that week. That's what. there's several good fruit places out near Bakersfield, California, where you can pull your truck up to. Okay,
but not many. And there's only so many Buc-ee's for your pickled stuff.
By the way, they don't allow 18-wheelers at Buc-ee's. So no.
You could have walked.
Yeah. And I do. I've done
it. Yeah. Because just because they got the big rig does not mean they can go anywhere they want. That does not exist. I mean, I drive for rideshare company, and a lot of the time they got to park at a special parking spot where they pay to park there because it's a locked-in yard. And then I drive them all these other places because the truck is more like a small apartment. I've dropped them off to get their hair done. I've picked them up after they went to Walmart to go food shopping. Dropped them off because they had to leave the truck in one town and then drove them like 30 minutes home.
It happens.
Yeah, it's the life. And there's no way to prepare you for it, but we can at least help give you a structure that will give you an idea of what is yet to come. And military isn't too different, other than when they're gone, Lord, they're gone. And when they're home, Lord, they're home.
Yeah. And my heart goes out to the military people too, especially the ones who get married. I remember when I was temporarily living in Yucca Valley, California, and I was in town. 29 Palms is down the road, bunch of Marines. One of them was just shit-faced drunk, puking everywhere and everything. Caught my eye. He had his buddies with him. They were trying to pick him up off the ground. And apparently he was about to be sent off to Afghanistan to fight. And his girlfriend gave him a Dear John email, and he had the damn thing printed out, and he had it in his pocket. I can't believe she leave me. It was one of those high school sweetheart situations, and he was trying to literally drink himself to death, which he could have possibly done without my intervention. And I helped him get sober up enough to realize he's a Marine, he's tough, and he don't need her. She wasn't that serious to begin with.
And just also looking at the average thing of Marines, are Marines usually ugly-looking people?
No.
So young, hot Marine thinks he can't get lucky again.
They were high school sweethearts. They had been dating since they were 15. Here he is, like 18, 19. It's probably the only love in his life.
Yeah, if you're that age, there's other fish in the sea. A lot of fish. Just go ask a lot lizard.
Don't make that joke, and don't curse the Marines that way.
Well,
Because they will.
oh, yeah. They're ready, willing, and able, just of a different type of...
Have you seen the dependopotamuses out there in Yucca Valley? Oh my God.
What? Depend a what?
Dependopotamuses. It's a military term. Mostly I've heard it through Army bases. Some of these really good looking, athletic looking, buff soldier dudes get these ugly wives, and the thought behind it is that they'll stay loyal to him, and then they have a bunch of kids together, and they're on
She
food.
gets tired of getting beat up. She's like, screw you.
They get the health insurance with the TRICARE. They get the food stamps and all that. I have literally been at that Yucca Valley Walmart behind a few of them in line. I didn't know you could get that much in food stamps. 3 carts full. Seriously.
Well, if you have enough kids, you can. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was annoying when I have my 2 items that I want to take back to the camper with me.
Let's do self-checkout.
Yeah, not at that. Not. They didn't have them then.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know about now.
I don't think anyone to ask. Okay. If you have any questions, leave them below. I usually stalk YouTube most of the time. So if you have any questions, and if you have any questions for me versus Bill, say so, because usually we agree on everything, but at the same time, we do have different insights on everything. So if it's specific, it's specific. And plus, I still have this small belief that men seem to respect the words of men more than they necessarily would a woman. Not because necessarily they could say the exact same thing, but if they know it came from a guy, it somehow is more valid, and it's a weird psychological thing. I respect weird psychological things. So if you need it to come from a guy, fine. Or I'll lie to you and say it came from him. But good advice is good advice. Or heck, do another episode on the question. To have proof that a guy was involved in the decision making or opinion making.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what a healthy relationship looks like, the equality of minds and truly listening and not dissing the other opinion or always saying, oh, that's not true. It can be true. A lot of things can be true.
Yeah.
And just letting it happen, and like I said, know when to pick your battles. If it's not a battle, leave it alone.
Well, my final words on the subject is that anybody out here who's dealing with this type of situation, whether you're military or truck driver, your individual situations, you know how to handle it. So handle it reasonably, handle it calmly, handle it without a whole lot of emotion, name calling, and blaming.
Yeah. Or in the words of my father, when my mother was batshit crazy from her she had a physical illness that made her very crazy. About 10 years, just love them anyway. Just love through it. Just love through it. And then when you come out the other end, I mean, there might be a few pieces you still got to work on, but you'll still be mostly intact.
Right.
It doesn't have to break you.
No.
It might, like I said, it might have cracks and stuff, but it doesn't have to be completely shattered apart, broken.
Tough times don't last. Tough people do.
So, with that being said, sayonara, y'all, from Fort Worth, Texas.